Yo, what's poppin', guys? Sizzle here, and this is probably my first and hopefully only ever post-recording in this series, where the mic audio is done in post. Because I didn't realize it at the time, but when I was recording this, my microphone was not picking up any audio. Like when I unplugged it and plugged it back in, it worked completely fine. But for some reason, even though I literally did a recording right before this one just decided not to work, which doesn't really matter since all I really said in this, I just made about a million jokes saying, look at this educational content, guys, isn't it so educational? While it was very clearly not really educational at all, and it's just me smurfing and Sober 5. The only thing that'll really happen in this post recording is me, I don't know, maybe I can try to explain what I was doing, but a lot of what I did in this footage is just completely random. I mean, it's whatever I felt like I could get away with. That is actually the one real educational point I brought up in this video, and I guess because it's a post recording, this will most likely be more educational than the original was, especially since we should find a game in about a second. I mean, it kind of looks like the audio picks up. Oh no, because we played deathmatch. I'm gonna actually skip past the deathmatch and then continue the recording from there. Now I cut, so we're about to queue into a game. It was actually a relatively long queue. It was like 4 minutes 10 seconds, kind of nuts. When it masters and GM tank queues are like maybe 10 to 20 seconds. I think the longest one I've had in the last 2 weeks has been about a minute and a half. So these 5-10 minute tank queues in bronze and silver are kind of ridiculous in comparison. And I guess because the rule's a lot more fun down here because you actually have more of an impact. Because the way tank works is you have no impact as long as the enemy tank is not throwing. But the thing is, up until about GM, every tank is throwing in some way, right? They'll be in a bad position, they won't be using their abilities right, they don't know how their hero works, they won't be playing with their team, they won't be playing LS with their healers. There's normally something the enemy tank is doing wrong that you can exploit, and if they're that bad, you can hard diff them and then dominate games on tank, and that works probably about until GM. I mean, that I can do that in Masters lobbies all the time. But the problem is once you hit GM on tank, it really isn't as easy because tank does not really have that much impact. It's interesting. Tank has impact when he's when tank is the tank rule only has impact when someone's throwing. Like the tank rule is the least impact when played normally, but when someone is throwing, the tank impact is the most impact. But yeah, I was gonna do this funny pin at the start. Just kind of as an opener, maybe make this game a little bit harder. Also, because I noticed we had a pharmacy, and in silver, pharmacy is a free win. If any of you are hard stuck and just want to instantly climb, literally just find a mercy duo, or you probably know one. If you're in silver, you probably have some real friends and stuff that you can play with. Go find your mercy duo, play Pharah, or vice versa, find a Pharah duo, play mercy, and up until about maybe plat, diamond, people will not hit shots consistently enough to counter pharmacy. The only hero that might counter use Echo, but even then, I don't think Echo will be played right. I was going to pin off the map again right here, by the way. I just fucked up the input. I pressed charge before letting go of shield, so it didn't work right. But then, yeah, I managed to pin Diva off the map, and I was actually pointing out, remember in this commentary, I pointed out the fact that Junkrat took both of my kills. I pinned 2 people off the map this game, I got credit for 0. And if you look purely at the stats, you see this Reinhardt is 200 damage and no elims, which just is kind of ridiculous. Because I've killed 2 people, one of which is the tank, who normally gives, a nice like 800 to 1000 damage, depending on random bullshit. But yeah, I pinned in here, because at this point I remember, I'm just going to try to recall what I was saying, honestly, because I don't really have a lot to add onto this just smurfing. Smurfing is really not educational, it's more just to show that if you are good enough, you will win all your games, regardless of teammates, although I definitely got the better team here. I got Pharmacy, they didn't get Pharmacy. The game kind of plays itself from there. But I remember at that point, I was saying something like, when you have a pharmacy in your team, no matter what the elo and you're on tank, your entire objective should no longer be, it's never play your life or anything like that, any normal tank behavior. Your entire goal when you have a pharmacy in your team as tank is just to beat down the counters to pharmacy. So in this case, I was more focused on this McCree and this Diva more than anyone else. Because if I focus on the Kree and the Pharah, they can't focus my Pharah. And if they're not focusing my Pharah, then my Pharah can kill 4, even in silver. It's really not that hard with a Mercy Pocket to kill a lot. Because you won't die, you're up in the sky. People barely look up in any video game. People don't look up that much more in Overwatch. And you can then kind of stop things. So yeah, they went Orisa here for 2 seconds, and I shattered them frame 1, and I think they gave up right after. You can actually see they have the Overwatch 1 Orisa skin, which means I don't think they've ever played that here before. They probably just heard in passing or have their team say, oh, can you go Orisa for the Reinhardt or something. When it should be very clear, even to me, it's very clear I'm not the only reason we're winning this game. I do just have a pharmacy. Yeah, a lot of my commentary initially on this was very toxic, because it can be, because I'm fucking smurfing and none of this is really educational, but it is kind of fun. I will say, the games get more fun the higher in elo you go, but then like I said, once you reach GM, you kind of plateau on the impact of a tank, and it becomes a lot less fun to play the game. Because I have fun with that feeling, like every DPS and support player. It's fun when you're the reason 5 people just died. With tank, it's so indirect in GM and stuff. Like, it's mainly just because you were super patient and just sat somewhere on a corner for 20 minutes instead of walking forward. That's normally what results in 5 people dying on the enemy team, which isn't really that great. Versus, you know, in silver, it can be because you shattered 5. Or did, like, whatever the fuck I did here, where I denied res, turned around, you know, shattered perfectly to kill Sig and hit Marissa. My Bastion laughs about it because it was kind of funny. And then I think I was just bitching about the fact that this Kree is just spamming right click on me and that I suck too much dick to do anything about it. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. And what else there to say? That's really that's the fun in smurfing. That's why anyone I know really who's high elo on tank right now, I mean not everyone, but a high majority are on Smurf 15. Even the GM1 tanks are on Smurf 15 right now. We're playing private scrims where everything's more even because matchmaking is so ass. Because on tank, you're not in control of your games. I mean, I don't know if I've said this before, but I had an account which was in GM2 when it was my learning account for Ball. It was in GM2 before I started playing Ball. I started playing Ball, my first ever game outside of like Ball Parkour was in GM2. I then played a total of 30 games, and I went exactly 15 and 15, even though I didn't know how to wall jump on Ball. I didn't really know how a slam worked until about halfway through, and my aim was pretty awful. It's because I wasn't completely throwing on tank, I was still playing the game. I think you could genuinely put a silver tank in a GM2, GM1 lobby, and they would probably win about half their games as well. It's very hard to consistently lose in a very high elo lobby, but it's also pretty hard to get to that point because all the people in those GM1 and GM2 areas that are normally there are all in GM4 and 5, and then it keeps going all the way down the ladder to the point that, you know, in bronze you'll have gold players smurfing consistently. And it's because I don't know. It's just there's no reason to really grind on your main account. There's no SR. There's nothing to work toward. You know, if you get rank 1 day 1 of the season, what is the point in grinding? Not that I've ever done this. I've never been rank 1. I don't even want to pretend like I have. Also, right here, the bullshit that Mercy can heal through that. I don't even think Moira heals on McCree. He just lived a point-blank shatter swing fire strike, and the only reason he dies is because I had the one-shot of pin available. But, you know, once you hit your max rank or whatever, like, what is the point in grinding? In Overwatch 1, it's because you could have an SR number that infinitely went up, so you could, you know, if I hit GM, there's a big difference in Overwatch 1 between 4,000, 4,100 elo, 4,100, 4,200 elo. You know, all those numbers, every number actually had a meaning and, like, a distinct player base. And in Overwatch 2, you just have GM5 and GM1, and even for GM1, there's like 100 stages of GM1, all of which look the same when you look at your profile. So what is the point of going from 4,000 to 4,700 or whatever if on your profile it looks the exact same and you can't really prove to anyone that you're better than them because you all have the same rank anyway? You know what I mean? It's not worth it. I mean, people complain about this a bunch. There's a million videos on why rank sucks. I'm even working on one. This is actually part of me working on one right now, where I'm basically saying Smurf accounts are broken, because this series right here, I mean, I'm 15 and 1 at this point, and I've went from bronze 4 to silver 5, which 15 and 1, that's 3 rank ups with 1 loss total. Generally, that should be 2 rank ups per, which means I should have 6 rank ups, or at bare minimum 5, because if I start at the low end of something and maybe get to the high end of something or whatever, I can get it if one time, especially the one I went 5-1, which I think was actually the first rank up. I can get that not ranking me up too. But then I should have 5 rank ups. Instead, I get 4, which is like the bare minimum. It just doesn't really add up with the way I dominate those lobbies, because performance is important. I mean, you can see here, I hold tab. I have more damage than 3/4 of their team, right? Their DPS had 5,000 each, their Moira is 5,000. If I count just their DPS, both DPS and their tank, I have more damage than them, and damage block, and like 40 kills and like no deaths. And it still is not getting me out of Silver 5 very fast. Meanwhile, I made a fresh account. I didn't unrank the GM on Ryan. That was just placements. I went 5-4, like almost an exact 50% win rate, like I was describing, because it really 90% of the time is just up to whether or not you get the better team. And the difference between, by the way, a high GM1 tank and a lower GM1 tank is they'll have a 60% win rate, and I'll have a 52 or 54% win rate or something. Like, that's the only real difference. Is I win 55 games out of every 100, and just about 5 games out of every 10. Sometimes 6 if I'm lucky, but most of the time it's 5. Then every now and then it's 6, and that's how I slowly rank up. A really good tank in the top of the ladder wins 6 games out of every 10 consistently, but never really more. But they're consistently winning 1 more game per 10, which means they climb that much faster. But that's really the only difference, and it's really not that big. I don't know. Just food for thought, I guess. I mean, that's the important thing to mention with climbing. Climbing is genuinely just harder than making a smurf, and it's kind of stupid because they work so hard on this whole anti-smurf system that they actually made it so that people who make smurf accounts or second accounts or even just new accounts, like new players, place way higher than they ever will in their main. Because it takes, like it's taken me 16 games, it's like 2 hours worth of play while dominating to get from bronze to silver as a GM tank. And if I made a smurf account, it's like 40 minutes after doing the quickplay games to get straight to GM, which skips all the ranks. Like it's gonna probably take me for this whole series way more than like 10-20 hours, just because the climb takes so long. Anyway, back to the game at hand here. I mean, their tank's off the map for the millionth time. I'm just kind of walking around here. I think originally the commentary at this portion of the match was me saying something like, the important thing with tank is to know your limits, right? It's not to know how to use your abilities, not to know position well and all that. The important thing with tank for ladder is to know what you can get away with and what will get you killed, and kind of ride that line. And I've played so much Ryan at this point that I know exactly where that line is, so that whenever I have the chance to get away with something stupid, like the thing that just happened before this, where I killed 4 and including something I'm pretty sure at some point in the last few minutes, I haven't really been looking at the footage, but I think I pinned a revved Bastion that was shooting directly at me. And that's because I knew with my exact health and who was alive around him, that no matter what elo that was, I could pin him there, and my team would probably finish him, and even if my team didn't finish him, I could finish him. And then when I went on from there, it's because I knew I had enough health to keep going from there. Point being, though, it's like, all you need to really know on tank is what can you get away with. That's the most important part of tank. Is what can I get away with no, assuming I'm not going to get healed by my healers, assuming my DPS don't do anything, assuming just, the enemy tank does all their normal stuff, the enemy DPS do all their normal stuff, enemy support does all their normal stuff. What can I do and get away with? And you just get away with it. The more you get away with, the higher in elo you climb, because the more you can carry. Problem isn't GM that number is 0. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.